Are you trying to lose weight, but you feel stuck? Or maybe you're just trying to lose body fat? In this video, I got a few tips for you that I personally use to stay lean. The first tip is to create an environment that encourages weight loss. For me, that's, the people I hang around with, first of all. So if I'm hanging around with big eaters, foodies, people that love going out, restaurants and that type of thing, or maybe not, maybe they just like home cooked meals, but they're just big eaters. Hanging out with people like that, or surrounding myself with people who are huge foodies, love good food. There's nothing wrong with that, but when you're trying to lose weight, having people around you who are a bit more, stoic, or are concerned about, health and weight loss and fitness and that type of thing, it's really going to go a long way in helping you out getting to your weight loss goals or your, physique goals. So maybe there's people in your family, maybe they're friends, whoever they are, co-workers that like to grab a bite at work for lunch. These people are affecting your food choices as well. Hanging out with people maybe who are very into working out. If I were to surround you with elite athletes or rock climbers or sprinters or something like that, I'm sure you could lose a few extra pounds, within a couple weeks. But the problem is we're hanging out with people who, love going out to eat, love relaxing, good food, good company. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe you want to do that, a little bit less often, dial it back once a week, or, if you're really gung-ho about the weight loss, maybe even just, once a month, have like a reward for yourself if you hit your weight loss goals. But I would say, the people who you hang around with are going to rub off on you. So try to get yourself into some sort of environment where it's easy. It would be super easy if all your friends were CrossFitters or all your friends were, elite athletes. I don't think it would be too tough for you to, get down to, 10% body fat or whatever your goal is. So first tip, create an environment of people who either share similar goals or at least are not taking away from you getting to your goals. The second point is to spend more time outside of your house. So where's your fridge? Where's your food? In your house, in your kitchen. So, if you're like me, you're sitting at home, you're on your computer, or you're doing whatever you're doing. You're checking the fridge, you're opening the fridge, looking for something. You feel kind of like you want to have something to eat, just, you feel kind of snacky or whatever. It happens to me all the time. Like, I just want to have something. We have these hormones in our head which are just telling us, eat, 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 eat. There might be a famine, there might be, some sort of emergency. So our bodies are programmed hormonally to just, want to eat. If you're in your house, I would say, like, I don't know, I can't give you a percent, but you're like 50% more likely to be eating something than if you're outside the house. So the next, piece of advice I have is to spend more time outside, which is kind of like, killing two birds with one stone. Because if you're outside, you're probably going to be moving a little more. Maybe you're going to be walking. Doesn't really matter what you do. You're going to be burning probably a little bit more calories than if you're, sitting in your chair, making trips to the fridge. If you're outside in your car driving around, maybe you're not burning as many calories. And if you're stopping by, a fast food joint and grabbing something to eat, that's another issue. But, if you're like me, getting out of the house means you're going for a walk, or you're going down to, the mall and, just picking up something that you need. I go to the dollar store and grab it, some glue.
Yeah,
I'm in the dollar store buying super glue.
Things that I need for fixing things around the house or something like that. Just keeping yourself slightly busy so your brain is not occupied with the fridge. And, just get out of the house, get some sunshine. You'll meet new people. There's a lot of reasons to get out of the house, but I guess the main reason is to distance yourself from where there's easy access to food. Because, the easiest access is just the fridge door. When you're outside, even if you're in your car going for a drive, it could be relaxing, it could be nice, throw on some music and just go, to where there's some nature, maybe a lookout point, and, take in some sunshine, get some vitamin D. A lot of benefits to being outdoors. And yeah, maybe you do stop off at a Starbucks, but get yourself, just like a regular old coffee with no whipped cream and no sugar in it type thing. And yeah, you might have a nice time. That's point number 2. Get yourself out of the house a little bit more. Distract yourself from the fridge. Point number 3 is to have some healthy snacks prepared. Now, when you go shopping, grocery shopping, and you're looking to get some food, I think you should always have in mind, what are you going to eat when you feel kind of snacky? Like, what are you going to eat when you have like an attack of like, okay, I want to eat something? And if you're trying to eat healthily as well, so I'm not saying like you should load up on like, boxes of protein cookies or protein bars and that type of thing. But, having protein powder might be a good thing to have. That's something that I do like sort of midday when I feel like having a snack. 1 scoop of protein powder. Sometimes I mix it with water. Sometimes I mix it with milk. 1 cup of milk might add a little bit more calories, but it also adds a little bit more protein. I use skim milk in my protein shakes. And sometimes I add in other stuff like, a banana or some berries and that type of thing. But you can just go like, 1 scoop of protein and some water, and that might tide you over, for a little bit of time. Might not last that long. But anyway, some other snack ideas I would say to have in your fridge on hand for those moments would be, like a hard-boiled egg or something like that. So maybe in the morning, whatever, do half a pack of eggs, hard-boiled. You can pre-peel them if you want, put them in a Tupperware and have them ready to go. So when you feel like, eating something, pop an egg down the hatch. And I normally do whole eggs. I don't see a problem with the additional calories from the yolk. If you're really strict and you want to just do egg whites, that's commendable. But again, I'm not going to eat like 3 eggs in a day. I usually try to cap my egg consumption to 1, sometimes 2 a day, but I normally just do 1. But anyway, these are just a good snack because obviously they have high protein. They do have a little bit of fat in there, so it will sort of keep in your stomach quite well. Some people might recommend, like washed and cut up veggies like carrot sticks and that type of thing. And don't get me wrong, those are great as well. But there's something about like eating carrot sticks which is, kind of not that enjoyable. You might want to have a dip with them. So maybe a hummus, that's, another great snack idea because, it's fairly low calorie if you don't have too much of it. So a hummus dip with sliced or whatever, carrot sticks and that type of thing. Protein shake, low-fat yogurt with berries. These type of snacks, you should always have in mind what are you going to snack on between meals, because it's going to happen that you're going to want to sort of binge or you're going to want to eat something between meals. Making sure that you have something that is, it doesn't necessarily have to be low calorie. It could be something high calorie. So let's take, eggs for example. Eggs may not fall into the low calorie category, but if you're having 1, yeah, that's a pretty low calorie food, but it's got saturated fat, it's got, all kinds of stuff in it that, if you were to eat 3 of them, then, maybe that would be a bit too many calories. So I actually think that there might be a benefit. Like let's take nuts, for example. If you had some trail mix or a handful of walnuts or almonds, they're not exactly a low calorie food, but they keep with you. So, if you have a handful of nuts, yeah, there's protein, there's fat in there, but you feel a little bit more satisfied eating a handful of nuts than you would, a massive bowl of carrot sticks. So there's a trade-off. The other thing with that is, if you eat let's say a big bowl of carrots, it's going to fill your stomach up, but then your stomach kind of gets used to always being really full. And I think there is benefit to having that feeling of your stomach not being totally stretched. And that'll come from eating foods that maybe are a little bit higher calories, so a little bit more fat in them. So, I typically do eat low-fat yogurt, but if you, let's say, wanted to go for the full-fat yogurt, maybe you would reduce the amount that you eat. You can throw in some nuts. So now maybe a very small bowl of yogurt with nuts is going to be, let's say, 300 calories, but that's going to last, that's going to, keep you full longer than a massive bowl of low-fat yogurt with a couple berries on top.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my Caliente Kitchen. Look at this. We have Greek yogurts. Yes, today we're going to do a Greek yogurt showdown. which of these Greek yogurts will get the title of best Greek yogurt for weight loss? You'll see.
So you really have to, figure out what's best for you, what's best for your body. And maybe you could do both. So on some days, you might do like a very high fat, like yummy yogurt with nuts, and it's a little bit higher calorie, but you're eating less of it. And then other days you can do the low fat yogurt, eat up the full container and put, some strawberries on top. So both about equal in calories, but then the volume is a lot different. So, I would say, just from my personal experience, mixing it up works well. If I do too much low calorie, I find that my stomach, looks distended, and I feel pretty full a lot of the time. So anyways, that's up to you to decide, if you want to go only one route or you want to mix it up and do both. But I think there is merit to eating high calorie foods, but you're gonna just have to have some self-control and eat less of them. Point number 4 is to eat off of smaller dishes. So eat out of smaller bowls, eat off of smaller plates. This is something that's been known for a long time. Like, it's a psychological thing. So if you have a big dinner plate, but you're on a diet, so you have slightly less food on it, you feel like something's missing, or you're not getting a full meal. You sort of feel cheated, like this is not really a full meal. So in your mind, you're probably thinking, since this is not a full meal, maybe I'm gonna eat something a little bit later. But if you actually have a smaller bowl or a smaller plate, then it actually kind of looks fuller and it looks like a legitimate meal. At least to me. I mean, maybe it doesn't to you, but I think, it definitely tricks my mind. And I think it has worked for other people that, eating off of smaller dishes sort of looks like you're getting a full meal when you're actually reducing the quantity of food that you're eating. Depending on what you have in your kitchen, you may have to do a little bit of a switcheroo. You may have to invest in a couple, smaller dishes, just, and eat off of those for a while and see how you feel, see how you do. But, and even if you go back for seconds, like let's say you have a smaller bowl or a smaller plate, you put everything in there and it looks full, you wolf it down in like 2 seconds and you're like, wow, I'm done. And you go back for a second, your mind's thinking, I had 2 servings, I had a second helping. Versus if I have one big plate full and then you go back and you have a little bit more, I mean, there's a difference there. One other technique I think that works is eating off of dishes that have a blue color on them or something like that. I don't know what it is about it. Like if the blue sort of accentuates the colors of the food or something like that. So if you do intend on buying new dishes, maybe get ones that are blue themed and see if that helps. Point number 5 is to eat a variety of foods. Now, I'm a single guy who lives alone, so I tend to want to eat just like one thing. So whatever it is, like I could eat out of one pot. But I actually think there's, issues with that. This is my personal opinion, but I think women have a better view of food in the sense that they like variety. At least from my experience, a lot of women that I know prefer to have, a few different things on the table, and they like to sample, different flavors and different textures, and they like different colors. Us guys, we can be satisfied with the cliche steak and potatoes, and that's it, and we're fine. And the only problem is we're probably going to be eating more in terms of volume and more in terms of calories when we eat like that. My advice to you is to have a salad, some kind of a soup, your protein, your carb, your veggies. It makes meals more enjoyable because you have, like I said, more textures, more colors, more flavors. And by the end of it, you feel satisfied even if the meal has less calories in it. And so it does take a little bit more prep. And, you can get away with, buying pre-made stuff, obviously. So box salad, some kind of a healthy soup that if you can find a nice low-calorie soup that's pre-made, I don't know, maybe like in like those plastic packs, there's some better ones out there. I don't know if the canned ones are quite as good. And then, you know what I mean? Like, see what you can buy that's pre-made. So on your dinner table, you'll have your smaller dishes that we talked about, put the main food on the smaller dishes, and then have your salad, have a soup on the side. And by the end of the meal, I think you would feel much more satisfied, even though you're eating much less calories than you normally would. So that's it, guys. Those are 5 tips that I personally use to stay lean, and when I'm cutting, when I'm losing weight. I sincerely hope they helped you out. If they have, leave a comment down below, or if there's other tips or advice that you think are better, leave those down below as well. And huge thanks for sticking around to the end as always, and good luck with those weight loss goals. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.